Awesome. Looks like we are live and ready to get started. Second, some folks are joining. All right. Well, hello and good evening, everyone. We want to welcome you all back to the Impact series, which is powered by the Davis system. I want to give a special shout out to my wife and business partner, Erin Davis, for leading our first two discussions in this series. And also give a special shout out to Anissa Benjamin at ABMI Media, who has really been the brains behind pulling this series together and has helped us really coordinate guests and topics as well. And so shout out to Anissa and Erin as well for the first two editions of this series. So today's conversation is focused on philanthropic investments, and we have some really special guests that I'm really excited to introduce to you all this evening. First, we're going to welcome Pamela Leins. Pamela, did I say your last name right?
Leins.
Leins, sorry.
It's totally fine.
Now, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you.
Always a pleasure to see you, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. Next, I'm going to bring to the stage Braxton Simpson, and we're going to introduce everyone and kind of give a quick bio read. But Braxton, if you want to say hello to the folks, say hello.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. Next, we have Jeff Similien.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing?
Welcome. Thanks for joining us. And last but not least, we have Daniel Laurent from Black Dollar.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Nice to see everyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. This is an amazing panel. All very busy folks who are very difficult to get on their schedule. So the fact that they made time for this conversation from Davis system, it really means a lot. And so we are going to just first get started with bios for everyone. Pam is a Boston-born first-generation Chilena American Latina who received her education from Boston Public Schools and Boston Centers for Youth and Families. As a double Husky, Pam recently joined Northeast University major in leadership and nonprofit management. She takes pride in her educational journey, which she likes to refer to as a scenic route, having taken 18 years to obtain her bachelor's degree and another 3 years for her master's degree. Pam believes that her journey has shaped her into the person she is today and considers her educational accomplishments as one of the greatest achievements. She shares her mother's sentiment that education is a valuable asset that no one can take away from her. Thank you, Pam, for being here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Next, Braxton Simpson is a dynamic entrepreneur, influencer, and marketing professional renowned for her ability to captivate and engage with Gen Z demographic. With a wealth of experience in social media, branding, and public speaking, Braxton has cultivated a remarkable career that spans several successful ventures. As the founder of Braxton Simpson's Enterprises LLC, shout out to another Black-owned entrepreneur here, Braxton has carved a niche for herself by empowering young people in marginalized communities to seize control of their personal and professional brands and careers. Her company, guided by the principles of passion to purpose and curating community, is dedicated to providing tailored services aimed at fostering autonomy and success. Additionally, Braxton is the driving force behind HBCU Links, a platform designed to foster sustainable bonds within the Black community, partially among attendees and graduates of historically Black colleges aged 21 through 30. Thank you, Braxton, for being here. Next, we have Jeff, who is an entrepreneur as well, founder and CEO of LowKey Dispensary, LowKey Cultivation, and a founding member of community empowerment groups Kings Amongst Kings. Jeff Similien has focused on three things throughout his professional career: commercial and residential real estate, cannabis equity, and elevating the communities he's a part of by providing opportunities, revenue, and attention to underrepresented individuals. These unique experiences, industries, and interests give Jeff the knowledge, wherewithal, and agility to elevate clients and customers' cannabis or real estate, victims of the legacy cannabis market, and members of underserved communities. Welcome, Jeff. And Daniel is a businessman, artist, and community advocate. After years and years of disappointment from supporting small businesses, he started researching why the disappointment occurred in the first place. Attending Fashion Institute of Technology and studying advertising and marketing, as well as having over 20 years of customer service experience. The origin of Black Dollar came out of a mission that he is passionate about, which is underlining and creating intentional action steps surrounding increasing the duration of the dollar in the Black community. Black Dollar LLC is designed for small businesses with affordability to excel and create the best possible customer experience, as that is paramount, especially in today's turbulent financial times. All right, so very impressive panel here. And just to give a little bit of background on why this topic, why today, for those of you all who may not know, one of the 3 guiding principles at the Davis system is connecting the community to resources. And this is a core principle of the work we do, as we do our best to prioritize working with clients, people in the community who have resources, who just need the means to actually connect them to the communities they're looking to serve, and communities that tend to benefit the most from the resources that these communities have. And so we had a dynamic panel last month full of women who are driving social change, and it included 2 of our former, one former client and a current client, Groundwork Project and the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts. And during that conversation, both of those organizations do amazing philanthropic work. But during the conversation, the topic of philanthropy and some of the toxic culture that exists around philanthropy came up. And so we really wanted to continue that conversation with the folks here. And so we are going to kick our conversation off with actually passing it over to Daniel, who was introduced last, but we'll start with you. So Daniel, based on kind of your extensive experience in community advocacy and business, how do you define success in philanthropic efforts within the Black community? And feel free to introduce yourself further, anything I didn't hit in the bio as well.
No, it's perfect. In the words of the great Chief Shagun Idowu, I just listened to a keynote of him earlier today, speaking to some young people, and what he told them was his bio wasn't really accurate, right? Because the bio, when you read a bio, it's just a highlight reel. It doesn't show all the no's and the disappointments and the failures that you've had, right? So I actually appreciate him saying that, and I'm gonna actually steal that, right? So the bio is fine. Thank you so much. And again, congratulations to you for that list, even though it doesn't nearly say the impact that you have amongst us in the community and what you mean to us, right? But I think the nod is appropriate and well-deserved. And I know that there's some rumblings and people get triggered by lists, but enjoy your space, and it is what it is. So I wanted to say that. So philanthropy, so the definition of that, what I found was the desire to promote welfare of others, expressed especially with a generous donation of money to good causes, right? And so then I wanted to get into philanthropy versus charity, like what's the difference? And so charity can be more immediate, and philanthropy is a little more time extended, where it's not just one-offs, and it can help over an extended period of time. And so for me, I feel like we all have roles, right? And my role that I embrace, and just all of my years, my role is service, right? And offering a empathetic perspective and approach, and just simply being the change that I want to see in the world, And so what I lean by that is success is all subjective, but Black Dollar, the whole origin is to create awareness, right? And then intentionality, putting the medicine in the candy, and just trying to always amplify a message that is often disregarded, right? And I grew up, and especially the generation before me, we grew up thinking that white ice is colder, right? Where there's a plumber, there's 2 plumbers, one's Black, one's white, one's Black one's Asian. The Black is never considered, right? But as I've grown older and just kind of really delving into the space, I'm realizing that my approach as Black Dollar is not just for consumers, right? It's also for the businesses. So just because you are Black, you don't get, the key to the city and get all of the spoils that comes with everything. You need to compete. You need to put your best foot forward. And so my approach is always twofold. It's to the consumers and to the business, because we need to keep it cyclical for the dollar to circulate. If me as a consumer is giving you, the business owner, all of my money, and you're taking it and buying Gucci and going to, wherever, it's breaking the cycle, right? And so that conversation has to be had, because typically it's just a one-sided conversation. So I don't know if that answered the question. In my mind, I feel like it did, but sometimes I get a little wonky. So pardon me.
No, it definitely did. And just to your point, it's, when we talk about success, it actually comes when we are able to form those long-standing relationships and bonds where it's not just the one-offs. And so just appreciate that answer. Pam, I want to come over to you. And I didn't mention this in your bio, but Pam is the executive director of the Boston Education Fund. And so I know Pam has a wealth of knowledge in the space. And so, Pam, from your leadership in nonprofit management, what do you see as the key indicators of successful community programs that would garner funds?
Sure. Thank you for the question. And Daniel, I have to shout out your intro, because I was like, it's funny, my bio said everything about what I'm not. Like, it focused on everything except all the titles that I wear and all the hats that I wear daily. So I am Pam. I am the executive director of the Boston Education Fund. I'm also a small business owner here in Boston. Own a barbershop, about to open up my second one soon in Nubian Square. I'm a mom, all the titles you can think of, I probably wear them proudly. So to your question, and having been in the nonprofit sector for, almost 20 years, even though I'm 23, I've learned a lot about how money moves. And again, to Daniel's point, like, there's a difference between philanthropy and charity. And I think the conversation really needs to start in educating folks in that we're all philanthropists, right? Just because we don't necessarily have the $1 million just yet to invest in the places we want it to, doesn't mean that, the $5 you give at church weekly isn't making an impact, or the $25 you're donating to your friend that's doing a walk doesn't have impact. So I think that's one of the main things that we really want to focus on, and really embracing the fact that we all are philanthropists in our own way. One of the conversations, or a big conversation, as to what really drives the work that I do at Boston Education Fund is that I'm really challenging the way philanthropy in its technical form that people know of, right? The big funders with the $1 million, how their impact should be challenged. Right? It's not just one-sided. It's not just about, I'm a philanthropist, I have X amount of money, I want, that savior complex. I think there's a problem here, so I want to put my money here, and my money is going to solve all of the things. No, that's not really what's happening. But on the receiving end, us on the nonprofit world, typically we find someone that wants to invest. We listen to what it is they want to invest in and put their money work, or what their passion is. And then we kind of work backwards from that. We go looking for the equation in backwards, instead of saying, that's fantastic, we really appreciate the funding. However, there's a huge need here, and I want you to come here into this community and listen to them tell you what their needs are, so you can see that your impact will actually make a larger impact than that one specific thing that you want to do. So I would say, to your question, I think it was specifically about community. What was it? I have it here. It was the community programs, right? So if you're thinking about successful community programs, then community should be first. Community engagement should be first. Listening to the community, really diving into like what it is the needs are, where the gaps are. That's step one. Step two is, I think there's always that tangible impact. Like how do you quantify and qualify where the funding is going and how that impact is really making a difference in closing the gaps. And then sustainability, right? Like if I'm speaking into existence. One day I'm going to be a millionaire and I'm just going to be like,
yeah.
But sustainability, the long-term goal is that I'm helping you set yourself up for success in a way that you no longer need me. You know what I'm saying? So that next, then we can go to the next problem and try to figure that. It's really about closing the gaps instead of kind of not giving them the foundation to sustain themselves so that those gaps eventually disappear and then we move on to the next one. So I hope that answered. I can go on for days. I get really passionate about this. But I know we only have a little bit of time.
And you hit on so many things in just that piece right there. And even at the end, I mean, a lot of organizations that say that they're doing the work, they almost benefit from the problem staying the same. And so they're actually not working towards an actual solution so that funding can continue. And then another thing that I heard that you said that I wanted to just say as well is avoiding mission creep, which is something that we hear a lot in this space, where it's like, you are as nonprofits, sometimes we're put into spaces where we have to like fit and like be nimble and flexible and to fit someone's criteria versus like staying true to the work that we do and finding the funding and improving that funding is out there as well. So and then also, Pam, you hit on one other thing that I want to just kind of open up to everyone, and that's kind of the difficulty sometimes, and maybe the difference in actually the quantitative data and the qualitative data that you may need to report, or just kind of the importance of tracking those things and best practices for that maybe as well. Now open it up.
I'm happy to kick it off. I would say you can't have one without the other. Right, like I think you need both of them, but having just one, like just having the quantitative data, it doesn't mean anything if you don't have the qualitative data to back it up. And I'm very mission driven. I'm sure we're all, we lead with our heart, and it's like, yeah, you can give me all the numbers in the world, but you can also manipulate the numbers, not so much in the data, but in what you want to showcase, right? Like, so you can't tell me that, Billy wasn't, the problem that Billy had isn't directly being impacted by the work that we're putting in, then numbers really mean nothing to me. So I would say that you can't have one without the other.
In the words of the great thespian Sean Carter, men lie, women lie, numbers don't, right? But we also know that numbers do lie, and numbers can get skewed. And so I think to Pamela's point, for sure, you can't have one without the other. But I think going back to what I said about roles, right? If you are a person where you are focused on, doing the actual work and the actual groundwork of whatever, right? Your strength may not be the numbers and the data and the spreadsheets and doing the research and figuring out and putting things together. So you make sure you have that person. Speaking of Jay-Z, right? So Jay-Z and Dame Dash, they complemented each other until they didn't. Maybe not the best example. I digress. But I think, having a person that is making sure that when you are doing this work, it is then being put into said spreadsheet to be able to prove that we are doing this, right? Because I think oftentimes, to Pamela's point, we are doing it from our heart and from passion. And then when you do that, you're literally just kind of running, sometimes with your head down, and you're just hitting walls and you're not thinking of. And when you have nonprofits, there's so many different pieces and boxes you have to check, and board members and processes. And if you skip those, then you turn into some worst case scenarios. And so to avoid that, if you are not a numbers person, get a numbers person, right? And I'll mute myself.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what everybody was saying. I guess just to kind of bring it home, I think metrics talk, but we always, they're always going to talk. Numbers are always going to talk, but qualitative, those stories just bring life to the metrics. And so that's really important, especially being in the nonprofit space, kind of in a current situation right now of building a state program up from the ground up. So, a lot of times as we're organizing, as we're on the ground, we're getting these metrics, we're talking to people, we're getting these numbers. It's also really important as we do this work to be able to translate that into stories that we can take to funders to really receive some of that philanthropic investment. And so I agree with what everybody's saying as far as it needing to kind of have both, because those stories are going to matter, and that's how you're going to receive the funding that's necessary to kind of keep the programming going. But of course, the numbers are going to wait for that.
So we're going to just segue over to talking a little bit more about long-term impact and also accountability within the space as well. So Braxton, I'm going to start with you in the segment. So Braxton, with your extensive background in nurturing sustainable communities and empowering the next generation, your philanthropic efforts are clearly pivotal. So as you continue to invest in and develop projects like HBCU Links and your work with RISE, could you share how you go about evaluating the long-term impacts of these initiatives? A little bit about
That's a really great question. Thank you for that. Hello, everyone. I'm Braxton Simpson. Really excited to be here today. CEO of Braxton Simpson Enterprises, co-founder of HBCU Links, and recently now the state director for an organization called RISE, which is a student-led nonprofit in which we fight for college affordability, as well as just supporting students and building youth political power. But to answer the question, I am always been pretty much a full picture type of girl. So when I think about projects and this topic of philanthropic investment, kind of brings me back to just the idea of accomplishing the big goal at large and really just painting a very full picture with every single detail. So I can kind of break this down from a few of the things I'm involved of and kind of relate it back to long-term investment. And so when I think about kind of my first initiative, Braxton Simpson Enterprises, we founded it in 2021, kind of coming off the pandemic, and it's grown to be something more than what I could have ever expected. Specifically my HBCU mentorship program. So starting with 4 students in 2021, and now just opening applications this week, upwards of 80 students. And they're interested, right, in moving in the right direction and partaking in the work that we're doing. They're interested in, just the ability to navigate this HBCU space with other students. And it's an indication that we are moving in the right direction, right? And it's an indication of community engagement. And that's something I would say I try to prioritize as a key performance indicator, because the program is growing exponentially. Students are interested. They feel like they're gaining a unique professional and personal experience. And they're able to connect, like I said, with other young Black women that are experiencing their reality across the country. So I would say prioritizing community engagement would probably be one of the key performance indicators. And then when I think about my experience with HBCU Links, on the other hand, that me and my co-founder, Brianna Johnson, started to connect HBCU graduates personally and professionally post-graduation. I think anyone with with big dreams knows that that also comes with like a big budget, and they know how important philanthropic investments are. So we've been blessed to be funded by organizations like Black Girl Ventures, who granted us the opportunity to partake in an incubator program along with a pitch competition. And we were able to do some work there. But that was really a time for us to really showcase the importance of long-term investment into our organization, especially as we detailed the impact on young alumni and recent graduates, especially post-COVID, and trying to build connections, right? So we were solving a problem. And so a year of solitude and isolation, as we all know, really can do a number on you, and that takes years to undo. And so we clearly articulated, I guess, just the business value of long-term investment into our organization. And, you know, that actually did lead to an additional grant in our work after being able to showcase that. And so I guess the takeaway from that would be just showcasing your impact and your business value and how you can back it up. And then when I think, I guess kind of to wrap it up, when I think about my experience with RISE, now as the state director, I'm actively working on building up this program from the ground up. And the key to this will be long-term philanthropic investment. So the work that we're doing, the programs that we're trying to build at universities across the state of North Carolina, the work we're doing to try to build youth political power and support students in becoming their own civic change agents in the community, that is going to be a long game. The success that we want to see in the state, you know, in many different spaces is going to be a long game. So any long game is going to require long-term investment. And so those investments, of course, will support the work that we do. So just to kind of summarize, I look at philanthropic investment from multiple different lenses, and I like to base success on community engagement, the ability to effectively articulate your business value, and probably just possessing an ideology, a mindset, and just an understanding of how the long game will require long-term investment.
That's good. That's really good. And I appreciate you breaking it down from the different vantage points as well. And offline, I need to connect with you about the HBCU links thing.
Sure.
As an alum, I need to figure out how to get connected.
Yes.
Jeff, I want to come over to you. Thank you for your patience. So, Jeff, you are kind of in a very interesting space right now. This is a very hot topic, both in our state of Massachusetts, but really around the country. When you think about both being in the cannabis space, but being a black owner in the cannabis space as well. And I know that a lot of, that's one part of your work. You also do work in real estate. And so how do you see the transparency and ethical practice in your philanthropic and business endeavors, and how important do you feel like transparency is in the philanthropic work that you do?
I'm sorry, you got to repeat that question. It was a little choppy. I didn't quite hear.
Yeah. So, in the context of your work with cannabis equity and real estate, how do you ensure transparency and ethical practice in your philanthropic and business endeavors?
That's a very interesting question. Hello, everybody. How you all doing? My name is Jeff Similien, founder, CEO of LowKey Dispensary, and also Kings Amongst Kings, which I started during the process of pretty much just waiting throughout the process of opening LowKey Dispensary. So throughout the journey of understanding what the dispensary, what the cannabis industry is, right? A lot of philanthropic work, a lot of mentoring, a lot of giving back, creating opportunity. So by the way of my background and my service, me being in the service industry and in real estate, and just being a guide for whether it's a business owner looking to purchase a commercial space, residential home, or whatever it is. My role sort of was for me to be basically just being a leader in that space, right? Just being a guide, just being a mentor. So for me, it's also transitioned over to the cannabis space where I became that individual to where I'm providing that mentorship, I'm providing that leadership, and just helping everybody, from my community to either into that space, whether as an employee, either as a business owner, to really just provide that education and provide the mentorship that I pretty much received as well throughout my journey. So I think that you know there was a challenge in the journey that I think a lot of Black owners and Black and brown men are facing in entrepreneurship. So for me, I just really focus on being that individual to help others get to the space as well.
That's good. That's good. So one of the things that I want to just open up for open discussion a bit is the importance of transparency, both transparency and privacy, in kind of working in long-term projects with funders. And anyone can jump in with this.
How can I? So, our community is very complex, right? I'll put it that way. And everyone on the call, I think, yeah. So our community is very complex. There's a ton of distrust and skepticism and critique, mixed in with traumas and triggers and all the things. And so I think leading with transparency is important, right? Because of those things and us knowing where we come from and knowing how either we once felt or those who we love feel and criticize others before we enter the space. However, I think, and this not to be confused with privacy, right? But I think that it's also important to not speak about things until they're actually finalized, right? And I'm saying that with the asterisk, right? Because when you're in a nonprofit space, again, I think transparency is super important. Like if you're in government, right? It's important to kind of show exactly what you're doing, especially when you're using other people's monies, right? But if you believe in energy, right? There's certainly things in my life that I have been so happy about, and I share it with everybody that will listen. And there are people that's not so happy for me or what I stand for, or that is Black dollar, not people of color dollar, or any of those things. And so that energy kind of invades that ecosystem in that space. And a lot of times those things that I was so excited about didn't happen. So I'm very mindful to keep things under my hat until, it's time to talk about it. Last thing is kind of like when we look on Instagram and we see like people who are artists and they'll take pictures under like the Universal or Interscope logo. And they're like, yo, I just had a meeting. It's like, so what? What's that mean? Right? Like, tell me once you sign and once you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree. Just anything worth sustaining, I feel like is also worth protecting. So just maintaining high morals and ethics, on any long-term project, I think is really of the importance. And I always think, just be the person that you would want others to be when you're conducting business, right? So when people are conducting business with you, investing in you, or partnering with you, everyone wants to just be confident that the person that they are working with is just simply a good person, an ethical person. So I just put that out there. We've all had negative business experiences and we've had positive ones. And so just be the person that you would want to be doing business with.
Yeah, I mean, I'll also add, I mean, when it comes to transparency, I mean, integrity is something that's very big for me. Just leading with integrity and just being transparent. Like you just said, being the person that you want people to do business with. So integrity is something that for me, I will lose all type of money or pay any type of fees, to remain my integrity, because that's something that's very important to me, and that's something that I would never want to taint my integrity. when it comes to business or just overall. I have a family. I'm a family man. I never want anybody to disrespect me, disrespect my family, or just talk bad about my name. I mean, I grew up watching my father. I've never heard anybody talk bad about my dad as a businessman. So this is something that's very important for me to continue that legacy as well.
Yeah, I agree with everything that everyone said. I would say that transparency just absolutely builds trust. And if you don't have that, you have nothing to build on, right? For privacy, I think privacy is it's more than just the legal aspect of it. I think it's really about respecting the dignity of the folks that are involved, whether it's the participants, the thought partners, like all of that. I really think it's much more than just the legal aspect of privacy, even though obviously that's as important. And then for ethics, I just really believe that that should be the foundation in every aspect of a project. So every way that you move, there you should have that ethics kind of like little person here checking you all the time. And in order to be successful and to build these relationships and you absolutely need both transparency, privacy, and the ethics piece. And then I'm here on the comments and I'm looking about how energy is so real. And it's true. Feel your gut. I always say, like, lead with your mind and your heart, but like listen to your gut. Trust it, because the gut be knowing.
Hashtag trust those guts.
Yes.
I like it. I like it. That needs to be a new Black Dollar shirt. So Daniel, I'm actually going to come back to you. So can you talk a little bit about how Black Dollar integrates investment with philanthropic goals to support small business effectively? And I think this goes well back to Pam's point earlier about you don't have to be the person that's dropping 100,000 to be impactful. So Daniel, I'll pass it over to you.
So, great question. I think a few things. The reality is I've helped more entrepreneurs and businesses pro bono than I've actually had as clients, right? And I feel like the money will come. I don't chase it. I'm not defined by it. I like nice things, right? So I'm not, but when I hear Black excellence, I hear it differently than I think a lot of people hear it, right? And so it's important to me for people to present as their best and compete. And so there's certain things that really, really bother me, and I just believe in being the change that I want to see in the world. And so I know that my IP is worth more than IP, intellectual property, right? But my IP is worth more than $1 that I can give you. Although I have contributed to certain causes and certain programs or organizations, for me, giving someone a heads up on something that can help them better their business or better their service or scale or be more successful or increase their positive reviews, that to me is what's important and what makes me actually feel good. And, I have under the Black Dollar umbrella, so to speak, there is a customer service and solutions agency that's called For Your Review, right? It's kind of a play on words, review, For Your Review. Boom, boom, boom. And so my partner, Kawanda, who is unbelievable, and we have so much synergy when we talk. It's like, twins of the things that bother us, the things that we love, the things that we want to change, right? And we can talk for 15 hours about those things. And so we joined forces. She has a wealth of experience in customer service and relations in the healthcare space. Me, similar healthcare, retail, banking, selling Kirby vacuum cleaners, selling cologne on the streets. I was the guy to come up and take your hand and spray your hand. I was that guy. But we are specifically addressing and enhancing, small business services, right? And the things that need to be fixed. And so also what I think is important, and this is personally, aside from any business stuff, I think mentoring is super important. And I think succession is super important. And I feel like as a culture, as a community, we tend to lack on that in many fronts, right? And it's because it's so hard for us to get into the door. Once we get into the door, and whatever door that is, we're there. So we want to figure this out. We want to control it, and we want to open a couple more doors. But in doing that, you either are intentionally or unintentionally now being a gatekeeper, right? You're not allowing that next person to come in that can maybe play another position or do something else. And so for me, I think that sums up, hopefully, again, sorry if it didn't, but for me, that sums up what your question is. And I just think, again, being the change that I want to see in the world. And I feel like we are all born and we're all going to die. It's inevitable. But that dash in between is what defines you and what leaves your legacy. And as Jeff mentioned, with his dad, regardless of any success from LowKey or any troubles that's happening with Kings Amongst Kings and any frustrations where he wants to pull his hair out and rip his beard off, what's important to him is how he saw his dad and living up to that, and in creating that legacy for his children to then model, right? That's important. And if you don't have that, in my opinion, I just feel like, it's actually a shame. So that's my soapbox. I'll step off and I'll mute back up. Hashtag trust your guts.
Trust your gut. No, you hit on a lot. And one of the things that you hit on that I really wanted to just make sure to underscore from Pam's earlier point is that it doesn't only have to be money as well in terms of what you can give. You can give your time, you can give your IP, your intellectual property, your skills to benefit these type of organizations. A lot of these organizations, as was said earlier, are operating from a bit of a deficit, whether that be from financial deficit or capacity in terms of staff. And so if you're a great bookkeeper and you have some extra time, volunteer that time, volunteer that to help out one of these organizations, because those are the type of things that can help them attract additional funding once the books are in place, once they're straight. And that's where a lot of our organizations struggle with the most is those type of things that prevent us from getting the funds. We're doing the great work, but we're doing it at a deficit. And so we need the help and investment of time as well and talent. Jeff, I'm going to just pass it back to you and just talk a little bit about just how you've seen the work that you do both in the cannabis industry and real estate impact the actual communities that you work in.
It's a great question. I mean, I was very intentional with with LowKey Dispensary in the beginning, and really opening up the retail store in Cartman Square. This is the community that I'm from, that I grew up in. Over time I saw the changes that needed to happen. Right, like Daniel said, I wanted to be the change that I want to be the change that I want to see in the world. Right, so walking up and down Washington Street, I grew up on Almadine Street, then I moved over to Claiborne Street, further up on in Cartman Square. So I saw the changes that needed to happen. Right before when I was young, I wonder why this didn't happen. Then over time, I asked, how is it going to happen? Then I got to a point where I said, you know what, I'm going to make it happen. So right on the corner of Washington Street in Almadine, I built some condos there and provided some housing in that community as a real estate developer. And eventually understanding when it comes to retail shops, when it comes to retail business, location is all about that. So making sure that I had access and I had a presence in the community, and providing opportunity and providing jobs was something that I was that was very important to me. When growing up, like I said, growing up in Cartman Square, Paul's, which is that building, 571 Washington Street, that was in a building that I visited because I was underage around those times. So seeing that this building eventually burnt down, and I was able to acquire the building, renovate the building, and put my business into that location and provide jobs to community residents who live walking distance from that store, who comes to work, and on their lunch break they get to go back home, go home, use the bathroom, and come back to work. I've also have individual who were in the illicit market, and then now they turned over and they actually work at a retail store and basically just turn over their lives, right, and not put themselves in harm of any danger. So in Kings Amongst Kings, which is another opportunity um, that I have to help other business owners who needs the resources, who needs to be connected to a guy like Daniel with the work that he's doing as far as educating and providing resources to small businesses, providing banking resources, banking relationships, which I have with so many different banks. So those are the work that we do with Kings Amongst Kings. Provided resources. We have the Bail program, which help members get access to a banker, an accountant, insurance broker, and legal services, right, and mentorship and guidance. So those are the work that I pretty much bundled up with my experience as a real estate broker, as a business owner, right, as the community developer, right, and helping other Black men become, business owner, become property owner, become investors, right, and it's sort of like that mentality: each one teach one, right, but not only just teaching, but showing them the way and providing them the resources and putting them in a room with the same other Black men who are doing it, showing that like it's possible because he's doing it. He looks just like you. He's from the same neighborhood like you. He's doing it. We just have to, get our minds together. We just have to, connect and share resources and help each other win. So that's really just the work with Kings Amongst Kings. It's really taking all my resources, all my knowledge, and the others that have the same mindset, and that also wants to help the others, and then we just come in the room, come in the space, share experiences, share resources, have conversation that we are not used to having behind closed doors, conversation we're not used to having with our fathers, with our colleagues, and now we make it okay to talk about those conversations because we all go through them. We're all men. We all have issues, and understanding all wives, understanding how to cater to our children, right? How to have other relationships with other men, right? Some of us, some men, they didn't grow up with a father, so they didn't grow up with an individual to teach them how to talk to women, how to talk to other men, how to be an alpha male, how to understand, how to speak, how to disagree without being disrespectful, how to disagree without getting angry, without getting mad, right? How to understand that, not well, understanding is an art, right? Understanding, just because you understand a person doesn't mean you agree with that person, right? There's a difference. So having black men in my life to teach me certain things, right? I see the difference between my counterpart who may have grew up next door to me. We grew up in the same street, but because I have access to a leader, I had access to a father or uncle or some type of guide, right? Or I went to a different school, right? It made me have a different experience, made me have a different outlook, right? Traveling, going to different neighborhoods. So these are the type of things that, within Kings Amongst Kings, we sort of have these conversations amongst us. We such a, create these exposure to ensure that we all could win, because at the end of the day, that's all, it's one relationship that set us apart. It's one decision. You know what I mean? It's one opportunity. We only have to do it one time and be successful. So, it's just, how do we help each other level up? So that's really what Kings Amongst Kings is all about. Like I said, we're all kings within our own own rights. So it's just changing our mindset, and asking for help, and being vulnerable, being open with each other, and getting things done. So that's really what it is to me when it comes to Kings Amongst Kings and LowKey. So they all, come to play with each other.
And Anthony, if you don't mind, just shout out Alex Edwards that I know does Kings Amongst Kings with you. So I want to definitely shout out him, Thumbprint Realty. And then also just really quick, before I even actually knew what Jeff looked like, right? I knew of this thing happening in Common Square. And I actually invested in LowKey, right? And so it's not just talk. It's not just, yeah, guys, you should, but it's a dispensary owned by a Black man, so like, why not support that, right? Because it's very easy once it opens to tear it apart and find flaws. And, I meet Jeff and I don't like him, so I'm not doing it. But the idea you want to support, right? Sometimes we have to separate the person from the idea, from the mission. And when we merge the two is when I think the problems start, so anyway.
You actually just teed up something that
appreciate you, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you. You teed up something that I actually wanted to kind of close out with and open this and pass this over to Pam and or Braxton, whichever one of you would like to answer. But to Daniel's point, if you were having a conversation with the foundation or an angel investor who was in a very similar situation to Daniel, who is kind of weighing the outcomes between financial good, financial returns, and social good. How would you all advise that person to weigh those outcomes and how to think about that? Maybe it's a pretty loaded question.
I feel like I've kicked it off each time, so Braxton, feel free. So.
No, I mean, I'm always a big person. I think kind of going back to what Pamela was talking about going with your gut, a lot of times, you can weigh the pros and cons of an agreement or arrangement. And you can kind of go through what you feel like would work, what might not work, evaluate the relationships. But I'm always a big person on like discernment and, how I feel about something. And I think if your gut's telling you no, that might be the way you need to go. And if it's telling you yes, I think you should lean into it and know that it'll all work out for the greater good.
Yeah, I would also add that, again, leading to what I was referring to before, the philanthropist usually has a passion, right? Whatever that may be, whether it's education or small businesses, whatever is their passion. But I would always lean into taking a step back and really bringing back that human conversation and saying, like, I understand education is your passion, for example. But let's talk about it. Like, why is education your passion? What is it that you feel so compelled to donate to or invest in? And then also bringing in, again, so much of this is having the conversations with the actual folks on the receiving end. Nobody knows what the needs are more than the folks that need it. So why aren't we listening to them? Why aren't we holding these spaces for the community to really uplift what it is that the needs are? I'm going to do, it's kind of a shameless plug, but it's not because it's all connected. But through the Boston Education Fund, there's a movement that we're creating. It's new, it's kicking off, and I believe in my heart and my gut that it's very special, and it's going to be a model that's just like replicated nationwide. And the movement, it's called Equity Boston. Get it? Equity. Daniel, I gotta go. You were like tooting your own horn. I was like, yeah, Daniel speaks my love language. I'd be burr, 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 all the time. So Equity Boston is a movement. It's a brand new fundraising avenue for education. And what we're trying to do for the first time ever, and we've looked to see if this is being done anywhere, is thinking about philanthropy and marrying philanthropy with the concept of participatory budgeting and grant making. So it's really getting philanthropic funds. And again, it doesn't just have to be the big $1 million funds. It could be the $10 mom and pop donations, like it doesn't matter. We're all contributing to support the same babies, our babies. So it's really about creating this new fundraising avenue, marrying that with the concept of participatory budgeting and grant making, where we're able to center the voices of the educators and especially the students, listen to them, see what the needs are, see what the priorities are, and then together figure out how we can support directly and complement the city's budget for education. So there's education budget, there's $1 billion, whatever the budget is, but there's a lot of things that budget does not account for. There's a lot of things that money does not do. It doesn't pay for the pizza parties. It doesn't pay for the celebrations for our babies' achievements. It doesn't pay for the HBCU tours that are happening right now. It doesn't pay for a lot of these additional non-traditional resources that are needed for our babies to survive. So not survive, to thrive. Sorry, I didn't mean survive. I guess survive could work too, but so in all of this, equity is doing just that. So it's really about having that conversation, challenging the status quo of how philanthropy has traditionally moved, and also just bringing in that human connection where we're all listening to what the needs are, and then together collectively figuring out how we can really have impact and close all the gaps that are needed. So that was my shameless plug, but I feel like it all came together. There's a lot of folks that really want to donate or, feel compelled to support education and don't know how, because they think that the only way is by giving directly to Boston Public Schools. And in some cases, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for this one day, is that a lot of people just think that that's a black hole budget. Like, you don't really know where the money goes, right? And again, this is being super transparent. It's about, that's who I am.
I was already going towards that somehow, some way.
But as being a nonprofit, so we're a nonprofit, we're the 501c3 that supports the Boston Public Schools. So as a nonprofit, we have to be transparent. We have to report out, like, it's very clear on where the funding is going and how it's being reinvested. So now we're actually just creating an avenue where folks can say, okay, I want to support Boston Public Schools. There's so many alumni that are doing great things. I'm a reflection of the students that we serve. I'm sure most of you, I don't know, whoever went to BPS, like, raise your hand, but we're out here, we're doing great things, and we're just not giving BPS the credit that it actually deserves. And now we're giving it an avenue to support it. So I hope that answered full circle.
And Pam, if you don't mind, we were actually moving into the shameless plug section of the program. And so if you don't mind sharing how folks can stay in touch and also keep up with the work that Boston Education does.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the real shameless plug. We actually have a breakfast coming up on May 8th. It's called the Voices of Equity, Our $1 Million Dream Breakfast. And it's going to be held at Hibernian Hall right here in Nubian Square. It's not going to be your traditional fundraising breakfast. If anyone knows me, knows I know how to throw a party and just have a good time. But beyond that, we're actually going to have a simulation, a demonstration of the whole participatory budgeting process. And we'll be able to vote on proposals that were created by educators and young people. And during the actual breakfast, through that vote, we will be allocating $10,000 to that proposal. And so I really want folks that go to not only understand the process, feel what it is to go through the process, they'll also be part of the process. And when they walk out, they're actually going to see the impact of the process. So if that's what we're able to do with $10,000, imagine what we can do with $1 million, $10 million. So it's May 8th, Voices of Equity. You can find me everywhere. But also follow Boston Education Fund, Boston Ed Fund, and you will be able to see how to connect. And I invite anyone and everyone to please come learn more about it, spread the word. There's something special here. I truly believe it. And I'm getting people to join the movement.
Thank you so much. Braxton, I'm going to come to you. Thank you for putting up with us Bostonians for the evening. Any way that folks can stay in touch with you?
Absolutely. It's been fun. So you all can stay in contact with me on social media, all platforms at I am Brax Simpson. You can also connect with Braxton Simpson Enterprises at BSC HBCU. We also have HBCU links on all platforms at HBCU links, but it's an X, so HBCU LINX. And then you can also connect with me at Rise. So we're at risefree.org. We're on Instagram at risefree.org, and you can connect with us there. If you're interested in supporting the movement for free college affordability, and just supporting students and building youth political power and finding their voices as they navigate the college space, student basic needs, all of those great things, just feel free to get in touch with Rise and really just contribute to the mission. So thank you so much for your time today. It's been great.
Jeff, I'm going to come to you next, and Daniel will let you close things out.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Thank you for this opportunity, Anthony. It was great having this great conversation with you all. When it comes to shameless plug, LowKey Dispensary, you can find us at located at 571B Washington Street, a physical location in Carbon Square. We are our website is lowkeydispensary.com. You can check in with me, Jeff Similien, at Jeff at lowkeydispensary.com. Instagram, Jeff Similien _ Jeff Similien on LinkedIn. Kings Amongst Kings as well. Kings Amongst Kings Boston.com is our website for Kings Amongst Kings. We have our monthly meetings every last Thursday of the month. So please check us out. Check out our website for to stay up to date with news, updates, location, and what we have going on in the city. So once again, thank you all for this opportunity.
And last but not least, Daniel.
I just want to I see the chat. Everybody's putting in what school they went to. Shout out to Dante. And also shout out to your boss, even though you were the founder and CEO. I want to shout out your boss who's in the chat, Queen Erin, right? So for me, blackdollarus.com, if you go there, I have clothing that's actually in Copley Mall in Bogo Split. And recently, I just formed a partnership with Meet Boston. And so I will have clothes in the Visitor Information Center in the Boston Commons. So that's going to be the Boston extension of Black Dollar. So it's going to be Black Dollar Boston. So I'm really proud of that. And, I'm on LinkedIn, Daniel Laurent, Instagram, Daniel Laurent SME. But, I think when it comes to business owners that may be listening, right, or might see this rebroadcasted later. If you have a brick and mortar, well, I don't like to use brick and mortar. If you have an actual storefront or location, right, or if you are a vendor, or if you go door to door and you do services, or you have a mobile kind of car detailing company, as a business owner and an entrepreneur, you are thinking about so many different things, right? And I think that sometimes the service and the experience of the customer is not so thought out. And so that's what the goal is. And so my partner and I, Kawanda, who I mentioned, for your review, we are simply trying to provide a service. We're not trying to beat people over the head with prices. It's really about trying to do something that can help you, and further that, right? Because we want to really have and promote the best of us. So we're working on our website, but in the meantime, if you go to Black Dollar 7 on Instagram and send like a DM, we'll definitely get right back to you. Also, if you write down for your review services at gmail.com, we'll get right back to you. Because one of the biggest things with business owners, I'll also say, is the response time drives me up a wall, right? If I email you on Tuesday at 10 a.m. and you don't get back to me until Saturday at 6 p.m., it's kind of wild. I don't understand it. I never will understand it. And that's one of the things that we are trying to address firsthand. So that's that. And last thing, proud to pay. Shout out to Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace. A lot of my efforts were inspired by, what he represented. And when he was murdered, that was my marathon moment of taking some things forward. And so when I say proud to pay, I practice it all the time. But if people want to buy a Black Dollar sweater, right, and I'm charging $50 for it, don't be afraid or feel like you're insulting me to give me $60 for it or $80 for it, right? If you go to a business and they're charging you $25 and you give them a $50 bill, like that's your contribution. That's the philanthropy. That's the Black Dollar. That's paying it forward in a real way, right? And I think that's important. And if we do that a little more for service that we feel is valuable, I think that will just help the ecosystem a little more. So that's my public service announcement, my call to action, my shameless plug, and all that stuff. And May 8th, I'm pulling up, by the way. That's what it is.
No, this has been a great conversation, and I appreciate each and every one of you and your time. I think one of the things that's really important to highlight is that we have 5 business owners, people of color here on this call who are both doing work in the philanthropy space, but also wanted to just call out that all of you all are entrepreneurs. And Pam, I know that we didn't necessarily get to highlight this in this space, but just the amazing work that you do out of the barbershop, both giving out free cuts and then also doing work in the community is just really amazing. I just want to give it up to you, and congratulations on the new space opening up as well. So just to close things out, I know a few takeaways that I have, and I want to just thank again the panelists. Is just that we are all philanthropists. One of the taglines for the Davis system is that we are all organizers. And so I think one of the things that I wanted to leave you all with is that we are all philanthropists, and not just money, but your time, your talents, your intellectual property, all of that can help organizations. For an organization looking for funding, stay true to yourself. #trust your guts. Avoid mission creep. Do not lose your mission just trying to get money. Stay true to your community. Remain authentic to your community. And if you are a funder, build the trust with the organizations. Don't just go in and be preying on organizations just to fulfill your funding needs or the needs that you may have. Actually do the work to find organizations that are trusted, and just the importance of long-term funding. I think it's amazing when you can give money, one time or for a short amount of time, but if you are in a position, especially as a foundation or a funder, to grant long-term, please do that. And so just thank you all again for your time. We are really excited that this series is continued, and we are looking forward to our next session, which will be next month. We will get that information out to you all very soon. Thank you all again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Congratulations again.
Appreciate you all. Thank you.
All right.